In this video, we're going to talk about makefiles and how we can use them to organize our dependencies and just compile files that have been changed, rather than compiling our entire program when we make just a small change that only maybe affects part of the program that logically we've split up into different files. So first, you might wonder, why would we bother splitting our program into multiple different files? This can be useful once our programs start to get really big. We just would like to group different functions together, different parts of the program together. It can help us keep track of things. Another reason is if I'm collaborating with multiple different people and we're going to be working on different parts of the program, if those are stored in different files, then we're less likely to have conflicts. And finally, when I have a tool like Make, which is going to let me compile each file separately and detect when only recompile a file if it has been changed or if its dependencies have been changed, that's just going to make compilation more efficient. So to start off, let's look at how we might split the selection sort.c source code into multiple files. So let me take a look at it. So if we recall, this has a main, and then we also have our select sort function, and we also have two functions here that are sort of just utility functions. And so maybe I think to myself, I would like a main function, and I would like a file for my main function. I'd like a file for my selection sort function, because that's got my more complicated logic in it. And then maybe I just have another file that has both getMinRange and printArray in it. So as I'm splitting this into files, I'm going to need to think about making sure that I have everything that I need in each file. So maybe to start off, I'm going to copy selection sort into a file called main.c. And in main.c, I'm just going to start deleting everything except for main. So I don't use getMinRange in main. I do use select sort. I don't use printArray. And then I don't need, the idea is that I'm going to define select sort in its own file. So I want to get rid of all of this stuff. And now I just have this nice short main file for main. Let's also do the same thing for select. I'll call it select sort.c, and let's take a look at select sort.c. So again, I just want to only keep things for select sort.c, or for my select sort function. So I don't need to declare it because it's not going to be used before I get to the definition. And then I'm going to put getMinRange and printArray in their own file. And so I will just try that. And then finally, I'm going to call this utilities.c. It's just my extra simple functions that make everything work. And let me edit that. So I'm not going to need to declare any functions because I'm just going to define my functions. And I'm coming all the way down. And so here I have my two functions, and that's looking good. So one thing I want to show is how I can nicely, I'm going to turn on I haven't been broadcasting my keys, but I think that will be useful. because I just want to show a Vim trick. So let's say I'm in utilities.c and I want to copy something over from a different Vim file or a different file that I'm going to view, that I want to view in Vim. So what I can do is I can do :tab, press, and then give the file that I want to open. So we're looking at utilities, so let's just look at main. And I can use tab completion. Sorry, these are right on top of it, but I did M and then I did tab complete to complete main. I could have also just, I'm going to move these. I could have also just typed it out, main.c, and then, but however I get it, if I press enter, as long as this is a valid file, now I have a tab for main.c. And if I want to go, say I wanted to put this function declaration in utilities, I can use all my regular Vim commands between these two things. So I'm just going to undo because I don't actually want to do that, but it is really nice to use tabs like this if you're working with multiple files. So to get between them, I just type GT, and if I had multiple open, why don't I just open the other one? I think it's select sort. I can move between them using GT, or if I want to go the other way, as usual, if I want to reverse directions, I can do G♯T, and that goes the other way. So just a nice Vim trick. So now that we've got our program separated into a couple different files, we can see how we can use a makefile and make to compile those separately and then link them and only recompile files that are changed. So let me just take a look here. So I have main.c, select sort.c, and utilities.c, and I don't need selection sort anymore, right? So I'm going to say remove selection sort. And now I'm going to start building my makefile. So, oops, I don't have one yet. So as long as I call it makefile or with either lowercase m or capital M, then if I just run make, it will look for that makefile with my rules. So my rules are written as in the format, I have a target, so this is the file that I need to make, and then I have dependencies. So for example, I would like to make a executable file called selection sort, and I'm going to compile each of my 3 files separately so that if one changes, only that one will be recompiled. And so in this step to make selection sort, I need those object files for each one to be made, and here I'm just going to link them. So I'm going to be dependent on, I'm going to call these, I'll compile my 3 files into files called main.o, so an object file for main, a utilities.o file, and a select sort.o file. And so after my rule, or I now put what actually needs to happen to make selection sort. So what I do here is I'm just going to use GCC. I'm going to, I think I can just do main.o, utilities.o, select sort.o, and I do want my warnings. Now, in order to, I'm also going to need a rule for all 3 of these. and they're going to be pretty simple. So main.o, that's going to depend on, I guess, the file main.c. So here I'm just going to compile without linking. So if I want to compile without linking, I use the -c flag for GCC, and I'm just going to compile main.c. Oh, I do want my warnings. Now I'll do one for utilities.o, a rule for utilities.o, which depends on utilities.c. So again, very similar. I want to compile without linking, utilities.c, and I want my warnings, and maybe I'll just try copying for speed, oops. Just using CIW for change inside word. I could have also done a find and replace. Maybe that would have been faster. But so now what this is saying is if select sort.c has been updated, then this needs to be rerun right here. And similarly, so that, because that's a lower level dependency than creating my eventual selection sort executable, that will be run. Say select sort is changed, that will be run, and then select sort.o will be changed, and so that will tell this to rerun. But we can see an example to make that more clear. So let's just try to run make, and it seemed like it worked. Did we get... So it looks like I needed to actually pass in the name of my file maybe, because it's giving me a.out. So let's see. So I thought maybe this would just automatically name the output file selection sort, but maybe I need a -o. So this is telling it what should my output be called. So -o selection sort, and now I'm saying compile it into selection sort. And let's try this again. So, oh, we can probably see, yeah. So first thing to note here is that the last time I ran make, all 3 of my .c files were compiled, right? This time when I ran make, the only thing that happened is that my object files were linked together. And that only happened because I added this. I now want to output it to selection sort, and selection sort didn't exist yet. So first off, we'll see, indeed we got selection sort. Let's just make sure it runs, and it does. So I'm just going to remove a.out. So that must just be an automatic name if you don't provide an output. And so now let's try running make one more time, and nothing should happen. Yes, because selection sort is up to date. None of those files have been changed. Now let's look what happens if, let's take a look and see when I do an ls-l. So this tells me about each of my files, when was it last updated, or when was it last changed. And we can see selection sort was changed most recently, so was makefile. But if I did something like made a change to one of these, so let me look at vim main.c, and I just made some change. Okay, get out of here. Okay, so, and I did my ls minus l again. So we changed main, right? So before main.c had as its time 1413, now it says 1435. But main.o is still 1432, right? It hasn't been recompiled. But if I run make, it detected that main.c was changed, so it needed to recompile main.c, meaning that it also needed to recreate my executable file. I can also, if I just want to sort of update that timestamp, and I wanted to see that this works on other files, I'm going to touch select sort.c and also utilities.c. So now let's do our ls-l, and oops, I'll turn my key casting off. So both select sort.c and utilities.c now have their timestamps as 1436, whereas before they are 1411. And so now if I run make, those two are going to be recompiled, but main won't be, and our selection sort will also be updated as we predicted. So that is a makefile. Definitely make sure that you try this out in the classwork, and you're going to be required to use a makefile for program 1. You can always develop your program all in one file, and then at the end split it into separate files for that assignment. Or if you feel comfortable with makefiles and with developing your program in separate files, then you can go ahead and start out that way from the beginning.